Coach Rocco is going to start with an opening statement and then
Hello, you.
questions.
Yeah.
I know you.
Well, I'm excited to be here. This is an honor. I know this guy here too on the screen here. So it's an honor to be here at VMI and represent this great institution as its head football coach. My wife and I are both very appreciative of the opportunity afforded to us by General Winds and Jim Miller. And we're excited to be back in the state of Virginia. This is it's really felt good coming back. I kind of have shared the story that in our first 12 years of marriage, we lived in 8 states as I kind of went on our tour of duty in the profession. And then we spent 16 years consecutively here in the state of Virginia. I've got family in Virginia. My brother Frank is down there at LCA, the head football coach, athletic director, and my brother Dave is up in Charlottesville. So this is a institution with great tradition, history, very prideful institution, and I am here to serve the student athletes and just excited to get started. So I'll take questions here from the media at this time. Thank you, John. Good to see you.
I gotcha.
You look younger,
mentioned
John.
Tradition and history. I wonder if you could elaborate on perhaps the football side of things. What attracted you to VMI?
Well, the football side, I probably referenced just my experiences, being in the state, coaching against VMI when I was at Liberty and at Richmond. Just basically the competitive nature of the program and of the student athletes. And I just kind of felt real comfortable with that mindset. As most people know, Coach Wachenheim and I are close friends. Wack and I worked together at Liberty University I was there for 6, I think Wack was with me for 4. So, I spoke to Wack quite frequently here over the last 5-6 years. And there's just a lot of things to like about this institution, about playing in the Southern Conference, and about being back in this part of the country, this part of the state. I feel like VMI attracts a very specific type of individual. And I feel like we've got some really good thoughts in being able to go out and pursue student athletes and families that are attracted to what it is that we have to offer. Well, John, I've had a number of conversations with obviously Jim Miller and other people that are in positions here to assist. I think the biggest thing, again, I think goes into putting together really strong freshman incoming classes, doing it with people that have a like-mindedness and a purpose that would allow them to see it through to their graduation. And I think the ability to really focus in on that and identify those players and those programs in particular in this home state that has had history and tradition of sending student athletes here to VMI, I think that's where it starts. And then I think once we get them here, just to continue to build and develop. And that's something that I have felt we've done a really good job of over the years. And I think we have a model that is conducive to building and developing our players.
Hey, if I could sneak in one more, is there a way that VMI has planned to take advantage of the transfer portal and graduate transfers as other Division I schools do on a regular basis?
I think, John, in this moment, the answer would be no. That there's not necessarily an initiative to take advantage of. I think there's been a lot of discussion about how to minimize some of the potential setbacks from the portal. And again, that goes back to attracting people and families that have a very strong purpose about why we choose VMI and why they're here, and have a real appreciation for what it is that they are here to accomplish and achieve. So I think it really starts at the beginning, not at the end, when you're kind of looking at how the rhetoric and the dialogue has to occur. But we are on a new landscape here in college football, and no one has it figured out. I think some places may be more suitable to creating some advantages, but still nobody has it figured out. And one of the things that's going to happen is colleges are going to recruit and sign fewer and fewer high school players because they're all going to be diving in the portal. Okay, what are we going to do? We're going to sign high school players. We're going to go out there and find the best ones we can find. We're going to remain committed to them, loyal to them, build relationships with them and their families, and then offer the kind of support and education and experience which comes with being here at VMI. So I think that's a decent response there to your question, but there is no magic, formula when it comes to trying to navigate that portal, in particular at institutions like VMI.
Thanks, Coach Rocco.
BJ, congratulations.
Thank you.
You talk about recruiting the right fit for VMI, and obviously it's very unique in the aspect that there is the military component to it. What do you think will make recruiting here different than the other stops that you've been?
Well, probably a number of things. I think the most important thing, though, that you do in recruiting is you sell the institution and then you build relationships with people. Okay, so what I know at face value, I know that this is a really, really good institution. Okay, so that is going to be attractive to a lot of people. And I also know that we have been able to build relationships with people, families, build trust. I've invested 16 years of my career here in the state of Virginia. I've got relationships in this state, in this part of the state. I remember my first opportunity at University of Virginia. I was the recruiting coordinator and the assistant head coach for Al Groh, and they sent me down to Southwest Virginia to recruit. So I was here, whatever the math was, however many years ago that was, down here in this area, meeting high school coaches, recruiting student athletes, and continue to look to build on some of those relationships. So, those are the 2 points I offer. I think that they're both very legitimate, and I think that's where we're going to start. It's like every place you go, you've got to be able to identify what the issues are and work towards finding solutions. And every place I've been, there are things, issues, items that are challenges, obstacles, okay? And we've done the best job we could in being able to navigate those. So I think in this moment, I see it the same way. The issues are different, the obstacles are different, okay, but it's still the ability to identify them, address them, and then at our core, it's a great institution. And a lot of people, that resonates with a lot of people.
You mentioned this part of the state specifically, this Southwest Virginia sort of region. VMI's had a lot of success recruiting in this region over the last few years. What is your sense of the talent level of the high school football player base in this part of the state?
Well, it was probably one of my first takeaways quite a few years ago when I came into the state, just how I felt that Southwest Virginia was under-recruited. And as the recruiting coordinator, I really took it upon myself to try to take a deeper dive into this area and Southwest. And as we know, the state of Virginia is a great state. It's a very diverse state. And you can be in different parts of the state and really feel like you're in a different state. All right, so recognizing that to be true, I feel like this area has been a little bit under-recruited. And I think because of that and the geography, there are a lot of hidden gems here in this area. And we're going to continue to work really hard to try to be able to find those guys. And there should be a natural attraction geographically. And again, people in this part of the state have great respect, the entire state does, for VMI and what it stands for and what it produces, you know. So those are real things, you know, and I want to continue to try to build on those.
Danny, when you were at Delaware, I believe you went to the FCS semifinals. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And then the next year, things kind of went the other way. What kind of challenge was it to get back into coaching? Did you feel driven by the events that had happened there?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a number of things. I really don't want to look back too far, but the circumstances were extraordinarily unique. Now, when people use the word unprecedented, that means it's never happened before. All right, so we went through an unprecedented season where we played 8 football games in the spring, then we had to come back 2.5 months later and play a full season. And our roster was incapable of making that transition. All those guys that usually have those 3-month, 4-month surgeries in the off season, well, in this particular cycle, they were all unavailable to play. So we were dealing with things that were, in fact, unprecedented. All right, so it kind of led to a different type of roster for us, a different type of season. I was extraordinarily blessed and fortunate to spend this past season up at Penn State. James Franklin welcomed me with open arms. He treated me with amazing respect. And the staff did, and I greatly appreciated that opportunity. And what I did this year allowed me to get better, allowed me to take deeper dives into certain things that I hadn't been doing for a while as a head coach, making observations, and you know, from Coach Franklin and his program. So at the end of the day, what I do best is function as a head football coach. Now, I didn't say I'm good. I just said that's what I do best. And you're writing over there, and that's kind of what you do best. And you've been doing it for a long time. And you're pretty good at it. You know, so like deep down, I knew I had to get back into a head football coach position, because I think it's where I can make the greatest impact. I think for all the things that happened for me at Penn State, and I enjoyed going to work, I enjoyed every part of it, I didn't make as much of an impact or influence on the student athletes. I think I helped the coaches, you know, I had a good role, but I wasn't as present for the player. And that's why I do what I do, to make an impact in the lives of the student athletes. I think the best place to do that is from this platform. So again, for me, you know, it is what it is. I mean, my legacy is whatever my legacy is. I mean, for me, I've never worked at a institution like this, a military institution. I've never worked in an environment quite like this. And I was attracted to it when I was young, coming out of high school. And so there are things that I'm extremely excited about. And, you know, the pitfalls are the pitfalls. I'm not going to spend all my time thinking about the pitfalls. Okay, I'm going to find ways to navigate them the best I can, and bring energy and a positive attitude and a work ethic here to VMI that allows us to build success and then look to sustain success.
Have you decided on anybody who will join you yet, or?
It's premature, Doug. I appreciate the question. I am highly committed to retaining a good number of coaches on our staff here. So I'll say that up first and foremost. Coach Walk did a really good job of vetting his staff, interviewing his staff. He was extraordinarily thorough in the process. He and I spoke on the phone numerous times about candidates. We both kind of had the same short list of names that we were working from, and I kind of felt very strongly about that. So you're going to most likely see a good number of the same guys back.
Is that unusual for you to have that kind of rapport with the guy you're replacing?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I would say that's a true statement. I've had relationships with other guys in the past, but not necessarily sequentially, not necessarily the one that I would have been replacing. And I think it's a great example, though. I mean, Coach Walk did what he did for the right reasons for Coach Walk and his family. I did what I did for the right reasons for me and my family. And what might make sense to one person makes different sense to another. And I think that's kind of how I see this in this moment moving forward. But I'm certainly excited to be here. I've got some guys that I've worked with in the past that are candidates. And I was very active all week long interviewing coaches, both from our current staff and from coaches outside the staff.
Hey, Danny, it's Hank with AP.
Hey, Hank, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you? Good to see you.
I'm well, thanks.
So I'm sure you said you've talked a lot to Coach Walk. I'm sure you talked to Jim Reed also about just kind of the challenges of VMI compared to other places.
Yep.
The transfer portal that John asked about, it seems to only have kind of an exit door. And, you find these diamonds in the rough that you're talking about. And like any sport now, kids find out they can play at a certain level. They think maybe they can play at a higher level. How challenging will that be I know you said you want to find the right guys, but when they show up and are stars, to retain them?
Yeah, it'll be difficult. It's been difficult. I will address it head on. I transferred out of Penn State to Wake Forest, however many years ago that was. But I left because I wasn't playing as much as I wanted to play. Right? The concept of playing a lot and kind of being a leader on your team and being a guy your peers look up to and leaving, that's a whole different kind of conversation than the conversation I had when I left Penn State to go. I was a captain at Wake Forest. So I left because I wanted to go someplace else and play more and make an impact and have a chance to lead. Okay, so now you were saying that guys are already making an impact and they're leading and they're wanting to leave to go someplace else. So if you're talking about the reality of getting ready to translate into playing in the NFL, that's one thing. If you're just talking about playing for a different brand, that's a little more difficult, I think, for me to internalize. And I think there's a lot of that going on, trading brands just to trade brands, opposed to, going to a place to get ready to play in the NFL. So that is real today. I recognize that. I made the comment earlier that it'll give us a clearer focus on the front end of really looking at high school kids and, not taking guys out of the portal to try to fix needs immediately and just try to continue to build it that way. But I think we're still in a world where there are a lot of unknowns, a lot of uncertainties. But I think what you're asking is accurate and fair. And I do think it's something that we're going to have to continue to find ways to get our players to want to stay and get that degree.
So a lot of schools will bring in former players who have gone on to great success in the pros and whatnot. It seems like at VMI, the idea might be to bring in business leaders and alumni who are, just doing great. Is that something that Scott did? Is that something that you anticipate doing? I'm somebody who I don't know that I've ever met somebody who graduated from VMI who isn't doing really well.
That's well said. Well, there's the ad right there. There's the commercial for me right there. I'll use that. So I know I was talking to Jim the other day, and I was in Richmond for 5 years. There were more VMI stickers on cars, BMWs, driving up and down Richmond than there are any other school in the state. And there's just a strong, proud base there in that part of the state. But I think you're right. I think that the opportunity to be successful coming out of here with a degree from VMI goes a long, long way.
And your relationship with Jim is dipping into the transfer portal. I know you said you haven't discussed it. Is that completely a non-starter because of the rat line and the discipline and all that stuff you guys they have to learn as freshmen?
I would say that you'd have to have a unique circumstance. I would say just, I don't want to say off the top of my head because I thought about all this stuff very thoroughly, but like you're more apt to get a freshman from another school to come in and start over than like some junior or senior, right? So a lot of these guys in the portal are juniors. Well, then they're not going to come back to square one and go through the rat line. You might get a guy that spent 1 year at a college saying, okay, I mean, I get it, So so we're categorically not out of the mix, right? But for the percentages of what's out there, most of these players are older players. And it'd be less and less and less likely, I think, the longer they've been at a university.
Would service academies be options?
We've had that conversation. I don't have a clear yes or no to that, but that's certainly one of the more obvious areas that you could look at and pursue.
Okay, and finally, the challenge for you. I mean, obviously, when you're a coach, if you didn't have the confidence that you could do it, you wouldn't take a job. BMI's had 2 winning seasons in 42 years. What makes you think you can, what gives you confidence that you can add to that?
Well, I don't know that it's necessarily confidence to add to that. I just know I'm up for the challenge. Okay, and I know I'm motivated by the challenge. Okay, and at the end of the day, when we write the story, you and I might write it differently, okay, in terms of what I feel I was able to get done here on my watch. But it's more to me the motivation for the challenge and the appreciation for the opportunity. And, I'm saying something, I shouldn't even open my freaking mouth, but like, I said, Sparky Woods, did this job. Jim Reed did this job. Those are good men. Those are good coaches. Scott Wackenheim did this job. Danny Rocco is going to do this job. And he's going to give it his best shot. And he's going to do everything he can to impact the lives of his student athletes and help young coaches and develop people. And I plan on walking away from this place with my head up and proud whenever that is, regardless what the record will be. But I came here to win football games and to build character and educate young people and kind of do the things that I feel I do best.
Last one from me.
That's your second last one, Hank.
Oh, I know.
All right.
You said something that sparked me. Is coaching football or impacting kids your main motivation?
Yeah.
Come in there.
Well, they're kind of one and the same to me. It's kind of the analogy I used a little bit when I looked at Doug. He's a writer. You know, I'm a coach. I'm an educator. You know what I'm saying? Like I am an educator. I'm a teacher. I teach football. You know, so for me, this is how I express myself, right? This is what I do. So I think that they're kind of one and the same for me, and I think for a lot of us. You know, I guess I it said to someone in my family, like, if I am who I say I am, okay, if I am who I say I am, then I'm coming here for all the right reasons. Okay, I'm coming here to make an impact in the lives of the young people that we're able to recruit, do it through the game of football. It's the greatest game in the history of sport. I like to build camaraderie. I like to overcome, achieve, accomplish, and really have that opportunity to celebrate. And you celebrate most when you have the thrill of victory. And, you know, those are the kinds of things that I think continue to drive me at this stage of my career.
Thanks, Danny. Good to see you.
Yes, sir.
Danny,
Yes.
what's your assessment of the SoCon as a football conference, and then what can VMI fans expect to see on the field as far as like a play style?
Well, I really like the league. It's I had been a BCS assistant coach for 23 years, and then 16 years as an FCS head coach, and then the 1 year there at Penn State. So in that timeline, I really came to learn that, you know, the SEC and the Big Ten and the Big 12, and you're kind of looking at the Missouri Valley, the CAA, and the SoCon, and it's kind of how I see it. And this is one of the Big Sky would be the other one here that's big. So I love the geography of it. I know we're the northernmost school. When I was in the Big South, my first 6 years as a head football coach, we were traveling down to North and South Carolina, playing a number of teams down there. It's a good league. It's good academics. It's very competitive. It tends to be a league where there's not a perennial winner every year. A different team seems to enter the fray. So I think that creates some optimism on my part. And just really, really excited to get to know the coaches in this league. And I got great respect for this profession. I had spent 8 years on the AFCA Board of Trustees, and I represented FCS football. There were 2 or 3 of us throughout that timeline that were actually the ambassadors for FCS football, and it was a role I took very seriously. And so to be able to reconnect with another group of coaches in a different league, I'm really, really excited about that.
What have you spoken to the players yet?
Yeah,
And what kind of response did you get, or did they get?
I got a bunch of yes sirs from the players. I thought that it was good. I met with them. I was here last weekend. Met with General Wins and Jim Miller, and accepted the job. Met with the team before the basketball game against Navy that day, and it was a kind of just more of a announcement, kind of an acknowledgement that I have accepted the job. I spoke of my enthusiasm to be here and my excitement to be able to get to know them. Today at 4:30, I'm meeting with the team again for the second time. And today I'm going to spell some things out, I think, in a little more detail, you know. So, but I'm really looking forward to that. And we've got a number of student athletes in here this weekend on their official visit. So this is really the beginning of my tenure here.
As far as the staff, anybody yet? Or
No, nobody yet. I
you got
think
enough relatives?
I do. I could feel the lineup with my relatives, but I think my dad might want to get back in it too. But I'm just not really sure what role I should give him.
What does your dad think about it?
Well, he's excited. I mean, I think my dad was very much able to recognize that my role is to be in a seat that has head football coach on its door, and that doesn't necessarily mean at what school or what level, but it was kind of like, that's kind of who I had become, and it's the way you think about things. It's the way you look at the game, it's the way you look at personnel and rosters and staffs, and it's the way you ask questions. You just look at things differently when you truly are or have been seated in that seat for a long time. It was one of the things I really appreciated about Coach Franklin. I mean, I had an opportunity to spend a lot of time with him in that capacity because most of the guys in those rooms were guys that were really focused specifically in on their job, their position, their units. And I was always much more broader in my thinking, so, but I would say that's a big part of, I think, why I'm here. Anything else?
Did you have to get your hair cut?
I knew that was coming. John O'Connor, I was going for the John O'Connor look, but I couldn't quite pull that
I
off.
don't remember that from your days in Charlottesville.
Well, but I've been pretty tight for a while. I grew the mustache back. It was COVID. It's a COVID mustache. All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Best of luck.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.